Listen to me. Your life is not shaped by your dreams. It's shaped by what you do every single day. Not what you intend to do. Not what you talk about doing. What you repeatedly do when nobody is watching. That routine you're casually living in right now. That's not neutral. It's voting. Every day. For the future you're going to wake up in. And most people don't realize it until it's too late. So let me speak to you directly. Not the version of you that's comfortable. The version of you that knows there's more. Your routine is telling the truth about you long before you ever open your mouth. It's speaking when you're silent. It's testifying when you're tired. It's revealing who you really are beneath the goals you post, beneath the affirmations you repeat, beneath the dreams you say you're chasing. Because the truth is this, ambition talks loud, but routine speaks last. You can say you want more, you can believe you deserve more, you can even feel destined for more, but if your daily actions don't agree, your future won't either. The mirror never lies. It doesn't care about your intentions, it doesn't care about your potential, it only reflects what you do consistently. And every morning you wake up, your routine looks back at you and says, this is who you are becoming. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. You don't need a motivational speech to diagnose your life. You need honesty. Look at how you start your day. Look at how you spend your evenings. Look at what you do when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when there's no reward in sight. That's the real blueprint. That's the real plan. Because success doesn't hide, it leaves clues. And those clues are buried in your habits. If your routine is reactive, your life will always feel chaotic. If your routine is lazy, your dreams will always feel heavy. If your routine is distracted, your focus will always feel fractured. You can't outrun a routine that's dragging you backward. You can't escape patterns you refuse to confront. At some point, you have to stop asking, why isn't my life changing? And start asking, what am I rehearsing every day? The uncomfortable truth is that most people are living on autopilot, then wondering why they're not arriving anywhere meaningful. They wake up late, rush through the day, scroll through their nights and repeat. Then they call it a life. But routine is not neutral. It's not harmless. It's either training you or trapping you. Every repeated action is reinforcing an identity. Every habit is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. And when you let your routine be random, you let your future be random. That's not bad luck. That's not circumstance. That's self-neglect dressed up as normalcy. The mirror is still there, quietly reflecting back the truth. This is the level you've been practicing. And here's what makes the mirror so powerful. It doesn't judge you, but it never excuses you. It doesn't shame you, but it never lies to you either. It shows you exactly where your discipline is strong and where it collapses. It shows you whether your standards are real or just things you say when you're inspired. Because real standards show up on your calendar. They show up in your schedule. They show up in what you do when you're exhausted, and no one would blame you for quitting. That's when routine reveals character. That's when it separates wishes from builders. You don't drift into excellence. You don't stumble into purpose. You train for it daily, whether you realize it or not. If you don't like what the mirror is showing you, understand this clearly. The mirror is not the enemy. Avoiding it is. Denial is comfortable, but it's expensive. Comfort lets years disappear. Comfort convinces you there's still time. Comfort whispers that tomorrow will be different without requiring anything different today. But the mirror doesn't care about comfort. It only reflects reality. And reality says that the life you're living 5 years from now will look shockingly similar to your current routine. Unless you interrupt it. Not with motivation. Not with speeches. With decisions. Repeated. Daily. Relentlessly. This is where responsibility enters the room. Not guilt. Not shame. Responsibility. Because once you see the mirror clearly, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend anymore. You know exactly why your life looks the way it does. And that knowledge is power. It means you're not stuck. It means you're not broken. It means you don't need permission. You need alignment. Alignment between what you say you want and what you practice every day. Change the routine and the reflection changes. Strengthen the habit and the identity strengthens. Raise the standard of your daily actions, and the future has no choice but to rise with you. So here's the ending you can't ignore. Your routine is already creating your future, whether you're intentional or careless. The mirror is already speaking, whether you listen or not. And one day, you will meet the life your habits built. Make sure when that moment comes, you recognize the person staring back at you, and you respect them. Most people believe their lives are shaped by big moments. One decision, one opportunity, one breakthrough that changes everything. That belief is comforting because it removes responsibility from the present moment. But the truth is far less dramatic and far more dangerous. Lives are not destroyed in explosions, they erode in silence. It's the small choices that carry the heaviest consequences, the ones you barely notice because they feel harmless. The extra hour of sleep instead of the early start. The skipped workout because the day felt long. The promise you made to yourself that quietly expired without protest. None of these feel like failure in the moment. That's why they're so powerful. They don't announce themselves as turning points, but they are. Every single one is a brick. And over time, you're either building a future you can stand on or a wall you'll be trapped behind. What makes small choices so dangerous is that they disguise themselves as exceptions. You tell yourself it's just this once. You convince yourself you've earned the break. You say you'll make it up tomorrow, and tomorrow you repeat the same negotiation. The problem isn't the choice, it's the pattern. Because the brain doesn't remember your intentions, it remembers what you practice, and what you practice becomes automatic. That's how potential slowly leaks out of a person without ever causing alarm. You don't wake up one day having failed. You wake up one day realizing you've been choosing against yourself for years. One small decision at a time. Discipline doesn't disappear all at once. It fades through compromise. Standards don't collapse overnight. They lower quietly. You stop demanding excellence from yourself in the small moments. And soon you stop expecting it in the big ones. The future doesn't punish you for what you didn't do once. It responds to what you repeatedly avoided. That's why regret is so heavy. It's not about a single missed chance. It's about the accumulation of moments you knew better and chose comfort anyway. The weight of that realization doesn't come from drama. It comes from honesty. On the other side of this truth is something equally powerful. Greatness is also built quietly. No one sees the early mornings at first. No one applauds the discipline when the results haven't shown up yet. No one celebrates the boring consistency of showing up when motivation is gone. But those small disciplined choices are compounding in your favor. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you're depositing into a future account. You don't feel rich at first. You don't look successful right away. But the balance is growing. And one day it shows up all at once, and people call it luck, never realizing how many invisible choices created it. Consistency is the force most people underestimate because it lacks emotion. It doesn't feel powerful. It doesn't feel inspiring. It just keeps going. And that's why it wins. Intensity can change a day. Consistency changes a life. When you understand this, you stop waiting for motivation and start building systems. You stop asking how you feel and start honoring what you committed to. You stop chasing results and start protecting the process. Because the process, repeated long enough, always tells the truth. Every small choice you make today is negotiating with the future version of you. You're either making their life easier or harder, stronger or weaker, more confident or more resentful. And the future doesn't forget. It shows up with receipts. It hands you exactly what your daily decisions paid for, not what you hoped for, not what you deserved, what you earned through repetition. That's why awareness is everything. Once you see the power of small choices, you can't dismiss them anymore. Every moment matters, not because it's dramatic, but because it's decisive. So hear this clearly, the future you want will never be built by one heroic moment, but it can be destroyed by 1,000 careless ones. Small choices are never small. They are seeds. And sooner or later you will live in the garden they grow. Choose what you plant starting now. Discipline is often misunderstood because people only see it through the lens of restriction. They think it's about saying no to pleasure, no to rest, no to ease. But real discipline has nothing to do with deprivation. Discipline is about alignment. It's about deciding that your future matters more than your momentary feelings. It's the highest form of self-respect because it says, I value myself enough to do what I said I would do, even when it's uncomfortable. Anyone can act when they feel inspired. Respect is built when you act when you don't. That's where discipline lives, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments where you either honor your word or betray it. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, something invisible but powerful happens. Your self-trust grows. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. You don't wake up confident, you earn it by proving to yourself repeatedly that you can be relied on. When you say you're going to wake up early and you do it, you're not just gaining time, you're reinforcing identity. When you say you're going to train, study, work or create and you follow through, you're teaching your mind that your words mean something. Over time, that changes how you carry yourself. You stop second-guessing. You stop negotiating with weakness. You move with certainty because you know who you are. You've seen the evidence. The opposite is also true, and this is where many people struggle to be honest. Every broken promise to yourself weakens your internal authority. You may not notice it immediately, but it shows up as hesitation, as self-doubt, as the quiet feeling that you can't fully trust yourself. That's why motivation fades so quickly for most people. It's hard to stay inspired when your own history tells you that your excitement doesn't last. Discipline repairs that relationship. It restores integrity between who you say you are and how you actually live. And once that integrity is restored, your energy changes. You don't need hype. You don't need reminders. You move because that's who you are now. Discipline also teaches you how to sit with discomfort without being controlled by it. Life doesn't get easier when you become disciplined. You get stronger. You learn that feelings are temporary, but consequences are permanent. You learn that you don't have to obey every urge, every raving, every excuse that shows up in your mind. That realization is freedom. When you can choose your actions regardless of how you feel, you are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You stop being reactive and start being deliberate. That's power. And power, when directed inward, creates stability that nothing external can shake. What most people don't realize is that discipline doesn't drain you, it gives you energy. Chaos is exhausting. Inconsistency is exhausting. Constantly starting over is exhausting. Discipline simplifies life. It removes decision fatigue because you already know what you do and who you are. There's peace in structure. There's confidence in routine. There's pride in knowing that you showed up again even when no one was watching. That pride becomes fuel. It carries you through hard seasons, through slow progress, through moments when results haven't caught up yet. And eventually, discipline becomes less about effort and more about identity. You no longer ask whether you'll do the work. You do it. You no longer debate your standards. You live them. At that point, self-respect is no longer something you're chasing, it's something you embody. You walk differently. You speak differently. You make decisions from strength instead of fear. And people feel it. Not because you announce it, but because discipline has shaped you into someone solid, grounded, and unshakable. This is the truth you must carry with you. Discipline is not about control, it's about care. It's proof that you value your future enough to protect it from your impulses. And once you learn to respect yourself through disciplined action, the world will have no choice but to follow your lead. Your environment is never passive. It is never neutral. It is always working on you, shaping you, influencing you, either pulling you forward or quietly holding you back. Most people underestimate this because they think strength is only internal. They believe if their mindset is strong enough, they can survive any surroundings. But even the strongest mind weakens when it is constantly fed noise, negativity, and distraction. What you see every day programs what you think is possible. What you hear every day shapes what you believe is normal. What you allow around you becomes what you tolerate within you. And over time, tolerance becomes identity. You don't rise in spite of your environment. You rise or fall because of it. Look closely at what surrounds you. Not just the physical space, but the mental and emotional atmosphere you live in. The conversations you entertain, the content you consume, the people you give access to your time and energy. If your environment is loud, your thoughts will be scattered. If it's chaotic, your focus will be fragile. If it's complacent, your ambition will slowly suffocate. You can't expect clarity in a space that rewards distraction. You can't expect growth in a place that normalizes stagnation. The environment always wins in the long run, not because you're weak, but because repetition is powerful. This is why people with big dreams often feel tired, confused, or stuck. They're trying to build a future in an environment designed to maintain the past. They say they want more, but they stay surrounded by habits, voices, and routines that pull them back to who they used to be. And every day becomes a battle, not because the goal is impossible, but because the environment is misaligned. When your surroundings don't support your standards, you're forced to fight yourself constantly. That's exhausting. And exhaustion eventually leads to surrender. Not dramatic surrender, quiet surrender, settling, adjusting expectations, convincing yourself that this is just how life is. But here's the shift that changes everything. You don't have to fight harder. You have to design smarter. When your environment is aligned with your goals, discipline becomes easier. Focus becomes natural. Growth becomes inevitable. You stop relying on willpower and start relying on structure. You place reminders of who you want to become where you can't ignore them. You remove temptations that weaken you. You limit exposure to things that drain you. Not because you're afraid, but because you're intentional. You don't need to prove strength by surviving chaos. Real strength is creating conditions where you can thrive. This also applies to people, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. Not everyone who's familiar is good for your future. Not everyone who's been with you deserves to go where you're going. Some people keep you grounded. Others keep you small. If every time you talk about growth, someone responds with doubt, sarcasm, or fear, that voice will eventually live in your head, even when they're not around. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to fight them. But you do have to choose your proximity wisely. Access is influence, and influence compounds. When you intentionally shape your environment, something powerful happens. You begin to change without forcing it. You start thinking clearer, acting sharper, expecting more from yourself. Your standards rise because your surroundings demand more from you. Excellence stops feeling foreign and starts feeling familiar. That's not an accident, that's design. You didn't magically become disciplined. You removed what was distracting you. You didn't suddenly gain confidence. You surrounded yourself with proof that growth is possible. You didn't stumble into consistency. You built a space where consistency is the default. So remember this. If you want to change your life, don't just look inward, look around. Your environment is either building the future you want or at least stealing it from you. Protect it, shape it, Choose it with intention. Because when your environment is right, becoming your best self stops being a struggle and starts being inevitable. Pain is unavoidable. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what you believe about yourself. Pain is part of the human experience. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is not the absence of pain, but the choice of it. Too many people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort, not realizing that avoidance